Hello and welcome to the Lordly Verdict with me, Mitchell, Lord of my domain. Still just the couch. Now, I'm a fan of many different genres of games. One of those games is survival horror. They're kind of a big deal. They're mainly popularized by games such as Resident Evil, which released its 6th game and a couple spin-offs. The Revelation subseries is coming up with a new game using the episodic release system used by people such as Telltale Games, and Resident Evil 1 HD was just released for PlayStation 3. Numerous independent games have come up, along with big-ticket ones. The independent games such as Outlast are especially considered good, though big-ticket AAA games have seemed to have a bit of a common problem. They're lacking two main elements. There's no real struggle to survive, and the games aren't scary anymore. They've become action games, not survival horror games, despite claiming that genre. Heck, in Resident Evil 6, many of the times you face zombies with machine guns, which is kinda weird. And the gameplay itself is, quite frankly, atrocious. Similarly, Silent Hill, one of the other big popularizers, has disappeared from the radar. Most of the games made are produced by a different team that's trying to repeat the plot of Silent Hill 2. Now, some of them are good, but others just aren't, and nothing really moves things forwards. Now, the indie horror games are often incredible, but that's because they're independent and focused on doing one thing and one thing well. Now, Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil, decided with Evil Within, he'd bring the genre back to perfection. And now it's time to see if he succeeds, because at first glance the gameplay has serious issues. I'll be fair, it's not as bad as the issues with Resident Evil 6, but they're still serious. Unlike Resident Evil 6, however, the basic gameplay works. It takes quotes from Resident Evil 4, the peak of the series. You can carefully aim to shoot zombies in the head. It's got action-based combat, QTEs if a zombie grabs you, and fortunately doesn't have too many QTEs. One of the nice things I saw about Resident Evil 6 was a little song called Mash the Buttons and Wiggle the Sticks. It's hilarious, and it's true. This isn't that bad. The QTEs replace the system used in Resident Evil HD, where you can't throw off a zombie if it grabs you unless you have a defensive thing. And in fact, getting grabbed by a zombie dog is instant death. Now, in this one, it's not that bad. They do hefty damage, but if you bash the button fast enough, you'll kill them. The problem arises when you try to run from a zombie. You have a stamina gauge. This hasn't been done in any horror game I can remember. If it was done in Resident Evil 4, I forgot it. And it's a big time thing. I'll give you it takes about 3 seconds before it runs out. You have to catch your breath and have to pause. It wouldn't be just a mild annoyance, except many of the cars are designed so you are supposed to run. Otherwise, you have to waste precious ammo, which is a pain in the butt. Now, since you can only run for 3 seconds, the developer is in a bit of an issue. Since you can only run for 3 seconds, as I said, they can't make the zombies too fast, otherwise they aren't really zombies, and you'd end up in a situation where you'd get stuck, unable to win, and they don't want that. So they make the zombies move incredibly slow. Standard Dawn of the Dead style, brains, and they suddenly lunge at you at the last second. Especially the boss zombies and a lady made of hands who can one-hit kill you. They're incredibly scary looking, they take a ton of effort to kill, but they are slow as molasses. Instead of a high-speed chase from zombies, it's running for about a foot, Just walking normally, running, walk normally, run, just leisurely jog. Jog for your life. It isn't scary. The zombies are deadly, mind you, one hit kill level, but it comes across as finicky. See, zombies either do the QTE to escape you, are a hard to dodge, no avoiding possible QTE like the chainsaw guy gets, which would be threatening, except they take place in such large areas that you can just jog for your life perpetually. You're not going to get cornered unless you're stupid, and even headshots on the chainsaw guy take forever. It's just annoying. Okay. Another part of the thing is ammunition. It's one of the main things that makes survival horror survival. Ammo is scarce, so you have to make every shot count. Avoid zombies by running from key battles, hiding from them, or doing other such tricks. Distracting them. In Resident Evil, they do a great job. The areas are claustrophobic and closed in. And, well, in this they're not. They're wide open with plenty of areas, and they use a very bad version of the Assassin's Creed style little stealth gauge. I'll discuss that in just one sec. But the other problem is many times they create areas where they give you ammunition and then have zombies just spawn a horde that you can't progress until you kill them all. You're supposed to stealth for them, but that's mishandled. The key to stealth is you need feedback on when the enemies can see you. Not just if they can detect you, which is done by the eye, but actions that make you detectable. It's why Metal Gear Solid had enemies on the radar. You can see their range of vision. Now, other games such as Assassin's Creed and Shadows of Mordor don't have this, but they compensate by making enemies stupid. They don't see you unless you're close enough to wave to them. They act like brain dead, blind, and deaf zombies, which ironically would fit perfectly for this. This instead goes to the opposite thing. There's no easy hiding spots, and the enemies, they have eagle eyes. Now, blind deaf enemies have been criticized for not being, well, hard, but these guys have such good eyesight that if you can see them, they can see you. If their back is turned, they're probably going to turn around and then they'll go, you. Later on, they're even put in positions where they go for you instantly and you're in bright daylight. There's no feedback on how to do stealth or what to handle. And again, then there's the huge horde rushing you. You could try to hide, but there's no radar or anything, so you're just left with combat. And well, the combat's cribbed straight from Resident Evil 4, where it's a good option. You're given melee attacks that are weak but can at least knock the zombie away, giving you time for a headshot or just shooting them in the body. You get enough weapons that you can have good options, and they're given to you automatically. You're not going to miss one. You don't even have to explore for them. They're hiding right in front of you, and if you do miss one, one will pop up. Melee weapons that break can be grabbed from enemies, and they will kill enemies in hordes. As for ranged weapons, headshots kill, non-headshots take forever. Now, you can run out of ammo, which is a good thing, but you don't, because it can make it survival horror, except you have forced combat encounters. Running away is not really an option. You can run across the area, but eventually you'll have to face them, and there's no way to tell if they can find you or not find you. It's just, oy. From chapters 5 to 9, you have mandatory zombie hordes, And even in one of them, you have to actually snipe zombies away in the millisecond that they're vulnerable as reinforcements pour in, which would be great for an action game, except it's not an action game. It's a survival horror game. This is the exact kind of thing he's trying to stop. There's another boss that comes immediately after a horde with no chance to refill ammunition. And you have to fight him in a 10 by 10 room. It's big enough that you can get away from him, but you don't have ammo. There's just no real way to beat him normally, and you pretty much just have to plink him to death with weak weapons. You have a sniper rifle, but you can't use it because you're stuck right next to him. It doesn't come across as tense because this is the slowest molasses chainsaw guy. It's just annoying. All that happens is he might kill you and then you have to go back to your save file. There are a few clever bosses. There's the guy can resurrect, so you can't kill him, you have to figure out how to avoid him, but he still has mandatory you must fight him a couple times. It's just that you have to leave eventually. And most of the time, you have to leave by killing him and then going to a place while he's resurrecting. Another you have to kill by burning with the environment. But both of them, they suffer from the jog for your life issue. Seriously, who thought of the jog for your life, you can't run as fast as you think? It creates a lack of tension and a lack of game balance. And it's made even worse by the upgrades idea. You have an upgrade system where you can improve your weapons, health, and ammunition, which is a great idea. The problem is there's nothing to keep it balanced. You can get green goo from zombies at random, with bosses giving you a ridiculous amount. And there are far more options than you would ever need. It doesn't by itself create issues, but the problem is you're not enabling special abilities. You're just enabling increased damage with one weapon, increased damage with another weapon, run for a bit longer, etc., which messes with game balance. See, to keep a game balanced, it's important for the developer to be able to estimate the player's skill and the character's skill in game. For instance, you have to know how far Mario can jump before you can set a pit. If you set a pit too far away and Mario can't jump across it, the game isn't difficult, it's impossible. And that's not fun. It's cruel. Thanks to the upgrade system, they don't know how far the protagonist can jump. Or in this case, they don't know how strong their weapons are. They don't know how strong the health is. They don't know his ammo load. And because of that, they can't balance the way the enemies go. They can't balance enemies to fit how much resources the protagonist has, which is what a horror game should be about. You should always have almost enough resources to win, and enough resources that if you try just one trick, you can get it. They don't have that. You either have things that are unfair or just don't work. It's never scary, merely frustrating. They have to give you ammo because they have too many ammo mandatory encounters, so you're never really having to survive. If anything, the survival aspect isn't about using intellect, it's about, okay, can I kill this guy in one shot? If not, it's unwinnable, never mind. That said, I've actually played worse. I've played a lot worse. It's at least, while not a true survival horror, it's at least a bad action game. It's average to below average at best. It's one of the worst A-list games I've seen outside of games that are just horrible, terrible, bad. It's not, obvious, blatant bug level bad, but it's still disappointing. It's not fun to play. That said, a good story can make up for an average game. Having characters you care about with personal tragedies that mean something and some nice twist. The reveal that the hero did something horrible. The discovery that you've been manipulated. All those awesome twists can keep a game going. That's why Silent Hill 2 was so good. That's why anything in the BioShock games are good. That's why System Shock 2 is considered so good. They all have twists that suddenly make everything seem different. This game doesn't have that. The big twist that takes chapters upon chapters to build up is that the entire game takes place in the villain's mind. Which would be cool, except they don't use it well. Most of the stuff is just generic set pieces with a few weird things. Why is a game that takes place in the villain's mind going through a random forest, a random ruin? It has nothing to do with his central tragedy. It's just something. And every single person who's heard of the game knows about the twist. It's in the previews. It's in the trailers. It's in a song released to tie into the game. And in the second or so chapter, you get a note that says, hey, we're making a system to dive into people's minds. And then nothing comes of it. Bosses are standard, holy crud, it's a giant monster. And while some later tie into it, there's no immediate tie-in, so by the time you realize it, you don't care anymore. There's no nemesis, no Wesker. There's nobody you love to hate. There's nobody who's just constantly after you. Ruvik the Big Bad is awesome in the first couple chapters. Then he spends about 7 chapters just doing nothing. Chapter 9 out of 12, he gets involved, but by that time you don't care. Around 4 to that or so, it just goes on pause. I mean, up until that time, you meet a scientist. You meet a bunch of people. All things are going big. All things are going big. Then you're just thrown into a grassy plain with your sidekick. Spend about 3 hours just goofing off with him, having a beer, killing zombies. It's just, I think it's supposed to let you get attached to him so they can do horrible things to him, but it takes place too slowly. There's not a reveal of what's going on. At most, you get him saying to the hero, after that bad thing that happened to you, I stood by you. Yeah, you did. The cinemas that happen are about once per chapter and are actually too slow. You just want it to pay off. Honestly, and the hero's big secret, his family died in a fire. Okay, his kid died and his wife disappeared. It has nothing to do with Ruvik. It might have to do with the organization behind Ruvik, but that's not going to pay off till the DLC and the sequel. Why care? You've got your Ada Wong style mysterious, hey, I know what's going on, but I won't tell you because I'm a jerk. Ruvik's your standard, who gives a crud. Now, the scientist is interesting, but he spends most of the time off away until, well, he finally gets to do things in the finale. Your sidekick, he's your generic, fall in love with me so horrible things can happen to me, until finally late game, horrible things happen to him. The game just goes on pause for the majority. It feels like this game was overdone. If they just cut out the middle, they'd have a tightly plotted thing to it, but that's it. There's some cool mini scenes, some cool set pieces, but it doesn't give you a good look in Ruvik's mind. It lacks the mystery of Silent Hill. It lacks the thematic connection of Silent Hill. There's no attempt to build consistent tone. It lacks soul. It lacks charm. Now, what made Resident Evil great just isn't there. playing Resident Evil 1 HD, I get to see what a good game was like, and it's good. It's just not there. It feels like if they had just made this for half the price and half the length, cut out the middle and remove the upgrades, they could have made something good. I think this is suffering from the same issues that happened to George Lucas with Star Wars 1 through 3. Shinji Mikami was a good director, but only when he surrounded himself with staff who could keep him stable, keep him from going too far, who could translate his vision into reality while making the changes that make it work. Sometimes even the best writer needs someone to just smack him upside the head and said, "Sir, you're being a nincompoop, sir!" He didn't have that with this game. He didn't have someone to tone it down, and the game suffers for it. It just doesn't have soul. It doesn't have heart. This is his retirement game, and it's a shame he went out on a whimper. I rated it a 2 out of 5. Watch a Let's Play of it for the best parts. Play Resident Evil 1 HD. Play other older games by him. If you really want a survival horror game and you worship at his feet, you might be able to get some fun out of it. But he's done better. This isn't it. That's the lordly verdict. See you next time. I think I'm going to go over Resident Evil 1 HD.